Hi, I'm Kim Gucci. Thank you so much for being here. I'm a pediatric speech language pathologist, hypnotherapist, and nervous system regulation specialist. And for over 2 decades, I've worked directly with neurodivergent children and their families. My work focuses on helping parents understand and manage the nervous system because the nervous system is the foundation for regulation, connection, trust, and emotional safety. The topic of this video is creating a secure base and what that means for building trust and felt safety at home. And so at first you might wonder to yourself what that even means, because you might be thinking, of course there's trust and safety at home. I love my child. I'm always there for them. I'm the one managing everything, supporting everything, and holding everything together so they can function at their best. And yes, that's true. You are doing all of that. But even when all of that is true, there can still be a lack of felt safety for both the child and the parent. Not because anyone is doing something wrong, but because felt safety is not created through effort alone. Felt safety is created through the nervous system. It's the feeling that in the body, that the body actually believes it is safe. And when nervous systems are constantly under stress, constantly reacting, constantly adapting, constantly trying to anticipate, head off, or manage the next problem, the home can begin to feel tense, unpredictable, and unstable to the nervous system. Even when there is so much love, even when there is commitment, even when there is deep care. And when the nervous system does not experience enough stability, it stays in defense, which makes connection harder. It makes trust harder, and it makes regulation harder for everyone. So in this video, what we're going to talk about is what a secure base really is, and why that's essential for trust, regulation, and connection. What is happening in the nervous system when the secure base is missing, and most importantly, how it can be built. So what do I mean by secure base? A secure base is not something you say, it's something the nervous system feels. It's the experience of being with someone whose nervous system is stable enough that your nervous system can begin to settle. It's the presence of a nervous system that is grounded, predictable, non-reactive, emotionally stable, flexible, capable of repair, and capable of staying steady even when things are difficult. So that does not mean being calm all the time. It doesn't mean perfect, and it doesn't mean never getting upset. It means there's enough stability in the system that the nervous system knows it doesn't have to stay in defense, because nervous systems do not relax in environments that feel unstable. They relax in environments that feel predictable, where there is enough steadiness that the system can let its guard down. This is what creates felt safety. And felt safety is different from logical safety. Logical safety means that nothing dangerous is happening. But felt safety means the nervous system itself feels safe enough to exhale and relax. Many homes are logically safe, but they do not feel safe to the nervous system because the environment may feel tense or unpredictable, reactive, urgent, or overstimulating, even emotionally unstable. When nervous systems don't feel safe, they stay on high alert, in fight or flight, in defense mode. And this is especially true for neurodivergent children whose nervous systems are often much more sensitive to sensory input, emotional intensity, and unpredictability. Their nervous systems detect instability more quickly, and once activated, they often take a longer time to return to baseline. This is not behavioral. It's a physiological reality. And to understand why, you need to understand a little bit about how the nervous system works. Basic physiological principles of the nervous system. The nervous system has one primary job, and that is to detect safety or threat and respond accordingly. So it's always scanning the environment, asking, is this safe? When the nervous system detects safety, then the body enters a regulated state. and the heart rate stabilizes, breathing becomes steady, muscles relax, and the brain has access to reasoning, listening, flexibility, and connection. This is the state where learning happens, where cooperation happens, and where connection happens. But when the nervous system detects a threat or instability, the body shifts into survival mode, fight, flight, or shut down. And then heart rate increases, breathing increases, muscles tense. The brain shifts its priority toward restoring stability. And access to listening, flexibility, problem solving, and cooperation all become reduced and go out the window. Not because the child's choosing it, but because the nervous system is doing its job. It's prioritizing regulation. This happens automatically. It happens in milliseconds. It happens for kids and parents as well, because nervous systems constantly communicate with and influence each other. Nervous systems do not operate alone. They constantly influence each other through tone of voice, facial expression, body posture, movement, breathing, pace, presence, your energy. And children especially rely on external nervous systems to help regulate their own, because their regulatory systems are still developing. They do not yet have full independent regulation, so they borrow regulation from the nervous systems around them. This is why the parent nervous system becomes the hub, the anchor, the reference point. If the parent nervous system is constantly feeling rushed, stressed, reactive, or overwhelmed, the child's nervous system detects instability, and it's going to adapt by staying in defense. But when the parent nervous system is grounded and stable and regulated, then the child's nervous system detects that stability and begins to organize around it and to orient and attune to it. This is how a secure base is built. Not through words, through nervous system stability. So I often describe this as becoming the lighthouse. I like that metaphor because I love lighthouses, and it just speaks to me in so many ways. Because when you think of a lighthouse, the lighthouse does not have to do anything. It doesn't stop the storm. It provides a steady, consistent reference point. And over time, nervous systems in distress begin to orient toward that stability. And when a secure base exists, the nervous system doesn't have to stay in constant defense. So emotional reactions become less intense and recovery comes faster. Connection becomes easier. The child begins to trust that stability exists, and the parent begins to feel less reactive. The home overall begins to feel calmer, more predictable, more stable. This does not eliminate stress, but it changes how the nervous system responds to stress. So instead of remaining stuck in survival mode, the system can return to regulation. And this is how trust is built and grows over time. It's how emotional safety develops, how connection strengthens. Creating a secure base begins by stabilizing the regulatory hub, the parent nervous system. This means intentionally managing your nervous system, not perfectly, but consistently. In the world we currently live in, this is important for everyone, but it becomes absolutely essential for the parents of neurodivergent children. Because these nervous systems are often much more sensitive, much more reactive, and more easily pushed out of regulation by changes in the environment. Things like transitions, sensory overload, unexpected events, emotional intensity, and uncertainty. Things that might feel manageable to one nervous system can feel overwhelming to another. And this creates a home environment where emotional states can shift quickly and unpredictably. So parents often find themselves constantly on alert, watching, anticipating, trying to prevent the next escalation, trying to hold it all together to keep everything from falling apart. This keeps the parent nervous system in a state of chronic activation, always having to be ready, always bracing, always adapting. And over time, this state becomes the baseline. So the nervous system never fully powers down. It never fully restores and recharges. It never fully returns to regulation. And when the regulatory hub of the home stays in activation, the entire system feels it because nervous systems are constantly communicating. The child's nervous system feels this instability and it adapts by becoming more reactive, more defensive, or more easily overwhelmed. Not intentionally, but again, physiologically. So, this is why stabilizing the parent nervous system is not optional. It's the foundation of regulation for the entire environment. Because when the regulatory hub stabilizes, then the entire system begins to stabilize. And the child's nervous system no longer has to stay on high alert. The home begins to feel predictable, more stable, and more nervous system safe. And over time, this is what allows trust, regulation, and connection to rebuild. So, important thing to know is that children do not respond primarily to what you say. They primarily respond to the state your nervous system is in when you say it. Actually, they're primarily responding all the time to the feeling of you, to the state that your nervous system is in. And because the nervous system is constantly scanning the environment for cues of safety or threat, the most powerful cue in a child's environment is the nervous system of the adult in charge. So, not the words, not the logic, not the explanation, the body. If your body feels rushed, tense, braced, or overwhelmed, your child's nervous system detects that immediately. Even if your words on the outside sound calm, if your voice sounds calm, if you're trying to communicate an external sense of calm, because nervous systems communicate directly to each other, and the child's nervous system adapts to the emotional and physiological environment it lives in. And it's always tuning into that of the parent. If the environment feels stable, their system begins to stabilize. But if it feels tense, unpredictable, or activated, their system is going to stay in defense mode. And again, this is not conscious, it's physiological. So it's why a parent can say all the right things and it still doesn't work, because the nervous system responds to what the body feels, not what the words say. This is also why regulation in the parent changes everything, because when the parent nervous system stabilizes and regulates, it changes the environment the child's nervous system is responding to. So creating a secure base begins with regulating the hub, the parent nervous system. So that means intentionally managing your nervous system. And that, creating a secure base in that way, includes things like creating moments of quiet, reducing unnecessary sensory overload, slowing your pace whenever possible, creating visual order in the environment, because chaos in the environment increases nervous system activation, and practicing regulation intentionally through stillness, regulated breathing, meditation, or visualization, or simply even sitting, just sitting and being, and allowing your nervous system to settle. A regulated system becomes the foundation for safety in the entire system. This does not mean controlling your child. It means stabilizing yourself. So your nervous system becomes a place where their nervous system can settle. And that's how the secure base is built. That's the foundation for everything else. It's how felt safety develops and how connection, trust, and emotional stability grow over time. So here's what real life often looks like in many homes. Something like this. A child refuses to get dressed for school. And so the parent feels the clock ticking, and then urgency rises, frustration rises. The parent starts pushing harder, or talking faster, moving faster, or trying to force cooperation. And the child's nervous system detects pressure, urgency, instability, and it shifts further into defense. So what happens? They resist more, or they shut down, they escalate. And then the parent feels even more urgency, more frustration, more loss of control. It creates activation in the body. So now both systems are amplifying each other. feeding off of each other, reacting to each other. It becomes a negative feedback loop. Each system is increasing the activation of the other. So the situation spirals, and it's not because either person wants it to, of course. It's because neither nervous system has stabilized yet. So neither person felt safety or nervous system safe. The nervous systems are seeking stabilization and regulation. Now, what that same moment looks like when the parent regulates first. The same situation with one critical difference. The language used, of course, can help, but the most powerful factor in that moment is not the words. It's not what the parent says. It's the nervous system state that the words are coming from. Because children respond first to the physiological environment, to the energy and the stability of the person in charge before they can fully process language. Now remember, the child is activated in that situation, so dysregulation is happening inside the child. So if you imagine that same moment where the child refuses to get dressed and the parent feels the same initial activation, the same urgency, the same like knee-jerk reaction with the same pressure, the reaction is automatic. But instead of immediately reacting outwardly, the parent stabilizes first. So they pause and they slow their breathing intentionally. And they release the tension in the body and take a more comfortable, relaxed stance. They stop adding urgency through movements, tone, or pace. They become more physically steady. Nothing dramatic, nothing performative, just stable. And when the parent nervous system can do that, stabilizes, the environment itself begins to change because the child's nervous system is constantly monitoring that environment. And without the added pressure, urgency, or instability, then the child's nervous system no longer has to defend as strongly. Their nervous system begins to settle. And as their system settles, access to listening begins to come back online. And flexibility begins to return. Cooperation becomes possible again. Not because the parent forced anything, not because the parent found the perfect words, but because the child's nervous system returned to a state where cooperation was physiologically accessible. So this is how regulation changes outcomes, not through control, but through stabilization. So how can a parent do this in real time? It doesn't require saying anything specific. It simply begins with stabilizing your body. Before speaking, before correcting, before intervening, you slow yourself down and you release physical tension in the body. So you might just shake out your hands or your arms. And then pay attention to your breathing. And a deep inhale and a slow exhale. And then you stop adding urgency through speed, tone, or force, just slowing everything down and lowering your volume, becoming quieter, just becoming physically steady. This sends a signal of safety outward. And then the child's system can begin to respond to that signal. It's not immediate control, it's nervous system stabilization. And that is what makes cooperation possible. Because the nervous system cannot cooperate while it's trying to survive and get back to safety. It can only cooperate once it feels safe enough to re-engage. When the nervous system has a secure base, everything changes. The home feels different. Connection feels easier. Recovery happens faster. And trust rebuilds. Regulation becomes possible again. This is the foundation. So as we close, I want to just come back to the most important idea here, that a secure base is not created through words. It's not created through strategies alone. It's created through the nervous system of the person in charge, through the stability, steadiness, and regulation of the adult nervous system that the child's system is constantly orienting to. This doesn't happen automatically. It's something that needs to be learned and practiced. Because most parents are not starting from a regulated baseline. Most parents are carrying years of stress, urgency, pressure, and old automatic reactions inside their own nervous system. And when a child escalates, those old patterns like activate automatically, and the body just reacts before thinking. The nervous system shifts into urgency, fear, or frustration, not because the parent's doing something wrong, but because the nervous system is doing what it has learned to do over time. So, this is one of the most important things that I help parents change: those old reactions, the old stories, the old patterns. Not the child first, not the child, but the automatic nervous system patterns inside the parent. Because when those patterns begin to change, then everything else begins to change with them. When a parent becomes more internally steady, more regulated, more neutral, less reactive, even in difficult moments, that is so powerful. It creates a ripple effect throughout the entire family system. And the home just begins to feel different. There's a whole different energy. Definitely more stable and predictable, and more nervous system safe, more felt safety. And over time, the child's nervous system begins to trust that stability and those signals. So again, that does not mean never getting activated. It means becoming able to return to regulation and repair when needed. Because things are going to happen. Things are going to happen. So, ruptures always happen. That's the nature of relationships. But to repair when needed, to name what happened, that was a difficult situation, and then to own your part. I felt overwhelmed. I overreacted. I spoke harshly, and I'm sorry. And then to reconnect and be present with your child. And each time that repair happens, the nervous system learns something new. It learns the relationship is stable, and it learns that safety can be restored. It learns that it does not have to stay in defense. This is how trust is built and how felt safety develops and grows. It's how a secure base is created, not through perfection, but through a nervous system that becomes steady enough, often enough, that others can begin to settle around it. That's the foundation. And it's something that parents can learn to build and strengthen over time. I've created a guided meditation to help parents regulate their nervous system and begin strengthening this secure base. You can access it as part of my free resources in this summit. This is where the process begins. Thank you so much for being here.